All right, everyone. So I'm going to pass it off to my good friend and colleague, Brent Slava. We're going to be talking education, financial literacy. Can we get Brent onto the stream here, please?
Here I am. Oh, I had a horn waiting for me. I really appreciate that. Whoever that was, it means a lot. You guys are looking fabulous. You guys look great.
Thanks, Brent. I mean,
Andrew's
you've
like, what
seen
can
this
I
bow
say?
tie throughout the years. We got to bust it
I
out every
know.
year.
How's it been going today, guys?
Pretty good. I mean, Brent, if you think back to when we first did this, because you were here for the first FinTech
I
Awards 7
was.
years ago. I mean, how different did this space look?
I mean, I when we started doing it back, what is it, 2015? It was
Yep.
2015. I mean, I thought fintech was huge back then, and it wasn't. It was still just, just budding and just emerging, and the changes from, getting more payments companies and more financial facilitation companies. I mean, it's a completely different industry, Luke. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there were account minimums, there were commissions. I mean, it wasn't seamless to switch between asset classes, right? You had
Good
stocks and
point.
maybe options. That was it.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Well, here's to the next 10 years, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, guys. I am going to be joined here we're going to have a little segment on education. We are going to be doing a little bit of education, but we're also just going to be talking about education for investors in general and how it's changed over the last year. And we are going to be joined here. There she is, Lorraine Kerr. She is Managing Director of Investor Education at TD Ameritrade. How are you today, Lorraine?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I always like when the Benzinga events team gets to involve me a little bit. I'm always honored. And thanks for joining us today. And let's
Thank you
talk.
for having me. I've been watching all the awards. Congratulations to everybody so far, and hope you guys have a wild night later on.
Absolutely. All right. So let's jump right into it. We only got about 15 minutes here, Lorraine. And so obviously over the last year, so much has changed with the COVID pandemic and also the rise of retail investors. And I think you're in a really good position to, give us a look at what is the current state of education in finance, in the stock market.
Yeah, I mean, great question. And I think like going beyond this last year and the COVID pandemic, I think, if we think back 10, 20 years ago, investing was in the hands of very few trading platforms. People didn't have as much access to the market. There was all of these kind of barriers to entry that over the years have been completely removed. So now what we're seeing is like this kind of access and participation that we've always advocated for the retail investor, but it's finally here. And we saw some seismic shifts this last year and kind of a
Sure.
bit beyond it when we went to that kind of zero commissions environment. So now this kind of other barrier to entry in terms of cost has been eliminated. I think the onus is on companies like Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade as more people enter into the market to make sure that we give them, of course, the best trading platforms, the best products, all of the access that they need to invest. But with that comes kind of a responsibility to make sure that we're also offering them the best education in terms of content that teaches them how to use platforms, content that teaches them how to understand the different products that are out there in the market, and then just content that kind of follows the market. I mean, I know you guys at Benzinga eat the market up every day. We want to make sure that clients have that access and can kind of follow what's going on in a way that they understand. For a long, long, long time, content and education around the stock market and investing in general was very much kind of highbrow language that was difficult to
Yeah.
understand and dissect. And I think what we've seen is this shift towards speaking in the voice of the regular individual retail investor so that things are easy to understand, they're easy to
Love it.
adopt. So I really think that's a seismic shift and kind of, a secular shift, if I'm honest, in how we
Sure.
kind of operate and offer clients that ability to interact. I think in terms of education, the big change that we've seen is consumption, which is wonderful. This is what we want to see. We want to see as more people open accounts and we see that trading volume rise, that we see people consume information more, because with information comes power, and it's the power to make good decisions and risk-informed decisions. So really what we kind of propagate at TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab is to make sure that we have that up to the minute information. We have kind of these learning endeavors that we offer people so they can achieve their goals. So again, from our perspective, the shift has kind of been maybe just an acceleration of, you know, that retail investor really participating in the market for the first time at this level in history. And it's truly wonderful for the retail investor. And I think this is what we've always advocated for and will continue to advocate for.
And I love how you said it, you know, a responsibility that a lot of these organizations are feeling. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. So I want to get specific here for just a sec. So, you know, I think you just highlighted a couple things that have changed over the last year. What about a couple things that you think are gone forever because of the last year? And sort of like, how have those things transitioned into something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen, I'm not going to say things are gone forever, but I think traders in particular have a really big sense of community. They like to kind of network together. They like to meet up and kind of talk about what's going on and what their strategies are. I think that ability to meet in person and have those interactions was kind of stifled a bit. I think we'll go back there, but I think people have realized that, you know, we're not dependent on that interaction person to person. We can kind of do that in all these digital forums like you're doing today. And this past weekend, we just did the same thing. We had our investor education conference. That's usually a gigantic event out in Las Vegas that we obviously didn't do the last couple of years because of what we've seen. So I think it's just, an acceleration of a trend towards more of that kind of digital first interaction. I still think people need people, and I think that we get a lot of value out of those personal relationships, but I think this gives us we can actually do a lot via that digital medium. So I don't want to say it's gone away for good, but I think we're less reliant on kind of that in-person interaction, at least as like the first kind of interaction that we have with our clients. And I think as well, it really kind of put the impetus on all companies, whether within the financial services industry or not, to really accelerate their digital experience. If you can only interact with people in a certain way, you need to be on top of your game. So things like personalization, curation of content, making sure that, you know, when you offer a trading platform, that you offer education around that platform. How do I operate within this environment? So one thing that we've really focused on is having people absorb the knowledge, right? Read, watch videos, take courses, all of those things that help them kind of arm themselves with that knowledge, but then also make sure that they have the opportunity to apply that on trading platforms. So at Thinkorswim, we have a paper money platform, which basically is, you know, kind of paper or fake money where they can go and trade in kind of a very simulated market kind of environment, but they're not putting their money on the line. So they're taking the knowledge they've acquired, they're interacting in the marketplace, but they're building up kind of that requisite knowledge before they kind of put their money on the line, so they can understand how their positions and their portfolio will perform. So I think it's really been a seismic shift in terms of now we really need to invest in that digital space and kind of blow that out of the water in terms of what we're doing. So again, I don't think anything has gone away. I'm going to kind of still think people need people and they'll want those in-person interactions, and we do a lot of that at Schwab and TD Ameritrade. But again, we can do a lot of what we did digitally, and really this has just given us the impetus to accelerate that experience.
Absolutely. And so you just mentioned, you know, what I would say is a pretty famous one there, paper trading for the Thinkorswim, for the Ameritrade platform. Are there a couple other features that you would, you know, specifically mention, you know, trying to give investors out there who are listening a heads up that maybe they should go check these out if they're looking for a little bit more education, whether it's on Schwab or on TD Ameritrade?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of both these firms coming together, TD Ameritrade and Schwab, is that they're both very much invested in that kind of knowledge ecosystem. So, you know, you can offer the best products, the best platforms, but if you don't kind of interact with people in that you know, bring them that knowledge and how to use all these things, it's a kind of a fool's errand. You're not going to be successful. So I think that a lot of energy we put into is making sure that we surround clients with that experience. I would say paper money is a wonderful tool for traders, but outside of the trading ecosystem, we have an education center at TD Ameritrade. We have a media affiliate, TD Ameritrade Network, that follows the market all day long and really reports out. And I know you've been a guest there before, Brent. I'm sure. So I think that really just offering them those interaction points, and I can't stress how important that kind of colloquial language, that we're really reaching out to people in terms they understand. When it comes to trading in particular, I think, when we release new features to the platform, whether it's new charting capabilities or changes and features that clients will use, we really make sure that we couple that with education. So last year we launched a new web platform called Thinkorswim Web, and one of the primary things we did, besides having all the wonderful features within that platform, is to make sure that you're embedding within that platform easily accessible, curated, in context education. So whether somebody's pulling the trigger on an order, do they understand the order types? It's right there. You can figure out, like, what do I need to know about this? So I think the expectation of investors is what we should really cater to, and their expectation is that you make their lives easier. So that comes in terms of the best experience and the best content when they need it. So we don't want to be searching around a website when we need to find context. So everything we have at TD Ameritrade is centered in an education center at tdameritrade.com, and also on the Thinkorswim platform right there where you need it. So again, I think it's like ease of use, and making things easier to kind of grasp and use for investors is prime. So again, I wouldn't highlight one specific thing. I think obviously our charting capabilities, our overall offering is fantastic, but I think we have to continue to get better and improve. And as we do new things, partner that with content and education. I think that will really kind of help retail investors across the spectrum.
You hit the nail right on the head, I think, Lorraine. And I mean, that's why we're all here at the FinTech Awards, right? It's making people, more accessible and getting better information to them. So I absolutely love what you're saying. Now let's get more specific here. Can you give a couple tips for investors out there? Like, speak to a new retail investor, give like a tip or two, your favorite tip or two, and then speak to like a more sort of advanced retail investor. Give them a couple tips or so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give the analogy is that you don't go out and play a basketball game without having practice. So I think the one thing I would give for a newbie investor is arm yourself with knowledge. The best thing that retail brokerage firms are providing today is free content. There's so much stuff out there that can help you get where you need to go. So people pick up their phone, I think it's something ridiculous, like hundreds of times a day. All of these offerings are available on mobile, so use that to kind of build your knowledge before you go and actually put your money on the line. So I really think that, and we've seen that, I think that people underestimate how savvy investors are, whether they're beginning or experienced. They just really absorb content, but you have to make it easy and in terms of accessibility and easy to understand. So I think in terms of new investors, invest some time in just gathering and building that knowledge. And I think, again, the onus is on us. It can't be just written content, to have videos and interactive courses and prompts and kind of suggestions. So I think that it's a reciprocal relationship. But I think, again, investing time and building knowledge is the best thing you can do as an individual investor, to get comfortable and get more competent before you put your money on the line. In terms of a experienced trader, traders, especially experienced traders, like, eat content up. They are like invested and they are super active in the markets, but they're also super active in consuming that content. So when a new product comes on the market, they are the people who are flocking to understand that product, so they're ready to go. Once that product releases, they feel confident and competent in trading it. So I think in terms of like an experienced trader, we just have to continue to provide them with that market context. And a couple of years ago, we at TD Ameritrade launched through our media affiliate, the TD Ameritrade network, and really that was the promise, and that was really a target audience that we kind of sought to cater to, was the active trader who wanted no nonsense breakdown and insights and education and kind of context. Here's what the market is doing today. Now, how do I manage my portfolio and my holdings in this context? So I think that, tuning into those kind of live broadcasts, it's available through the Thinkorswim platform. It's right there at your kind of beck and call. So use that as kind of something that sets context and give you that additional kind of edge in the market.
Love it. All right, a couple more really quick questions here. These are questions that I get asked sometimes, and I figured you're probably a better person to ask this question to. I get asked a lot, recommendation for a financial related stock market book, and then also like a top pundit or couple pundits out there to follow on Twitter or to follow on the networks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention JJ Kinahan from TD Ameritrade's book on options. I think it's wonderful for beginners and kind of really sets the tone and the scene for understanding that kind of basic kind of option strategies and kind of talks people through. So, and then in terms of pundits, I am a huge admirer and follower of Liz Ann Saunders at Schwab. And have been for years. She's like, you know, obviously a female in this space. She's extremely knowledgeable. She really thinks about the psychology of investing in the market. And, you know, she's really a tremendous resource for any investor, whether they're super active traders or, you know, more kind of casual investors. She's absolutely fantastic in terms of how do I break down the economy and the market and tie all this information together. And again, I think at TD Ameritrade, from a trader's perspective, you know, JJ Kinahan, he writes for us every day on our tickertape.com website with kind of market insights, and both of them are available on Twitter to follow. And I really think, you know, follow as many people as you can. I think that, you know, you want to make sure that you're going to trustworthy sources. There's all these new kind of avenues and ways that people are interacting as we've seen the last few months. So I think that, you know, having that kind of broad spectrum of what you're listening to gives you context. And, you know, a lot of these kind of people who've been in the industry a long time, they've been in the industry a long time for a reason. They know what they're talking about. So
Absolutely.
just two suggestions that I would definitely consider following if I was looking for a good perspective.
All right. It looks like we got maybe time for a couple more here. So let's see. How about we talk about, well, you know what? One thing that I didn't ask you was you were hinting, but you didn't give me, I think, a clean answer. Where can some investors out there find some of the resources on TDA or on Schwab? Like,
yeah,
do you have a URL or
find our
somewhere on the
education
platform?
center, so it's on at tdameritrade.com, and then we have an education tab, so you just click there. Kind of features learning paths for the new investor, kind of who has a very specific goal. You know, maybe I want to place my first stock trade or my first options trade. We also have a very strong presence on YouTube. So if you go to our TD Ameritrade YouTube page, there's a wealth of information, playlists, kind of compilations that make sense. And one thing we saw in this last year is like people were very focused on, I have a goal to achieve and I want you to give me very specifics on how to achieve that goal. So, you know, our most popular content has been, how do I place my first stock trade? How do I place my first options trade? How do I place my first futures trade? So really like contextual education that helps somebody go from, this is what I want to do, I'm not sure how to do it, here's how you execute. And then on Schwab, they have an absolutely fantastic section, their insights section. Again, it's on schwab.com, and you can visit there and you get really good perspective from their research analysts, and then really good content. So I think, again, there's such a breadth of information. And one thing I'm excited about in this kind of merger that we're having between TD Ameritrade and Schwab is like all of that is going to come together in one spot for the retail investor. And again, it's just power in your pocket, right? That knowledge and that kind of context is going to be great for all of our clients.
Love it, Lorraine. Education for the modern trader. Thanks so much for joining today. Lorraine Kerr, she is Managing Director of Investor Education at TD Ameritrade. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.